Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by PILMA. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the pleasure and honor of having Eric Stevenson with Stevenson Klotz Personal Injury Law Firm out of Pensacola, Florida. And welcome, Eric. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Ken, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What kind of practice, how long you've been practicing, your office, different things like that.
Yeah, sure thing. So I've been practicing 26 years, been doing personal injury and some criminal most of that time, but primarily for the last 10 years or so, personal injury. I practice with my law partner, Chris, in downtown Pensacola. I'm married with two kids, one out of high school and one in high school. So, got a lot that we're juggling and doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're also in our mastermind here at PILMA.
Yeah, that's right.
How long you been in the mastermind?
Man, I think we've been in mastermind for probably about 8 years. Yeah.
Wow. Well, good. At one of the masterminds or somewhere, I can't remember, I was talking to you. You were talking about this thing that you do at your law office with themes. And I think you might have got it from Mickey Love. I'm not sure. But the big deal is, don't matter where it came from, if it works and it's something good and helps you grow your practice, then, I want you to share it with our viewers and our listeners. So can you tell me a little bit about how this came about, what it is, how it works, the whole deal?
Yeah, sure thing. So we use daily themes to keep everybody in alignment, right? It's a good way to make sure that all of us are working together on the same things through each day of the week. Instead of doing a file review on a Friday or a Monday and just going through every single case that we've got and say, all right, you got to get this done, you got to get this done next week, you got to get this other thing. And it just feels overwhelming. What we did was we broke down our caseload. We categorize them all in our case management software. And so we broke them down into days. So for instance, today is increase the average settlement. And so what we do is when I do my stand-up this morning, actually, you know what? Tuesday is increase the average settlement. Wednesday is what we call working for the future. And so what I'm going to do today when I do my stand-up with my case manager is I'm going to go through all of the cases that are in treatment for greater than 90 days and just go through all of those cases and say, hey, where is this person with treatment? Are they at MMI? How much are their limits? How much they have in medical bills? Can we go ahead and move somebody to demand prep? And so we've got these themes throughout the week where we're really just working on cases in particular categories each day.
So let's start with Monday. So what's Monday? What's the Monday thing?
Yeah, and so I did get these from Mickey Love, by the way. She came up with the themes. We went to a conference, and then I kind of tweaked what she had for us. So Monday has moved the needle. The lawyer goes through that morning with the case manager, all the cases that are in negotiations. I kind of talk about where we are with negotiations. And then for the paralegals, we go through cases that are in depositions and mediation status, right? What do we need to do to move those cases on to get depositions and mediation scheduled? So that's Monday. And one of the things that the paralegals work on for that day is they're going to start Monday also just looking at their list of things from last week and see what they got to do to plan their week. So Tuesday is increase the average settlement. And what we do with it is that's where we're looking at demand prep and demand sent, those two categories for case managers. So, when are these demands going to go out? These demands that have been out, have we touched base with the adjuster to make sure they've got everything they need? And then with paralegals, what we are looking at really that day is, are there opportunities to maybe reach out to opposing counsel and try to resolve a case that day? And so that's what we do on Tuesdays. And it works real well because then we're kind of all working on the same things. Wednesdays, like I talked about, is working for the future. The two things that we're doing there are treatment greater than 90 days, and then also awaiting records greater than 30 days, right? Like, is there a reason we don't have the records within 30 days? And then for paralegals, initial discovery. We go through have we served discovery? Has the other side answered discovery? Have we answered discovery? And then Thursday is our cleanup day. And that's where we're, looking back and we're saying, all right, what do we do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? What do we need to do to follow up? Did we ask for some deposition dates and not get responses yet? Or have we reached out to an insurance adjuster on Monday and not heard back from them? Let's reach back out. Let's try to keep that momentum going. And so, but the other things we look at that day is we're looking at cases that maybe have settled and we've had partial distributions, but we've got some liens that we've got to wrap up. And then also for paralegals, we're looking at cases that we need to file suit on. What are we doing to get the suits filed? And then of course, Friday, as Mickey called it, is Show Me the Money Friday. And that's the day where we're working on, what cases have settled, but they haven't dispersed yet. Has the check come in? Do we have all the liens squared away? What do we need to do to get these checks out and get money to our clients? And then for paralegals, that's the day that we kind of do a deep dive into cases that are set for trial. What do we need to do to get worked up for trial and get ready for that? So that's the week in a basis, or, kind of in its basic form.
So you said stand up. What does that mean? I mean, for people out there that don't know, when you said during your stand ups, what's a stand up?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's our morning huddle with our individual paralegals and case managers. So what we do every morning, we get the whole team together and do a real quick daily huddle. And then I meet with my paralegal and case manager first thing in the morning. We call it a stand-up meeting. We're not sitting down. As soon as you sit down at a meeting, it's going to take longer, right? So we do them standing up so they don't take as long.
And do you do those every day, or do you do them certain days of the week, or what?
Yeah, so I do them every day. Both Chris and I do them every day according to that theme. That way we get through our entire caseload in a week for pulling the files and seeing what we need to see, or at least touching each file, but we don't have to have it all. We used to do where we just do a case review once a week, and it just got to be overwhelming. And so we got to where we can have the lawyer and the paralegals on alignment on the same day.
So I want to make sure I understand it. So you do the daily huddle. That if you have a certain time you do that every day.
Yeah.
What time do you usually do it?
8:00, as soon as we open.
As soon as you open, first thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I bet that's pretty good. That gets people to go ahead and come on in, get their coffee. Let's get going. So they're not hanging around for the first 10 minutes. Well, how long do these stand-ups usually last?
It depends on how much we've got to get through, but they usually take about 15 minutes. If we get to a point where there's a case that's got a real sticking point that we're going to have a long conversation about, we'll schedule a time later that day or later that week to sit down and go through that case individually.
Yeah. Just take it outside the meeting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what has been the benefits of doing this?
It's gotten our cases moving quicker. They don't stay in case statuses as long because, we're focused on a certain case status each day and what can we do to unstick the cases that are in the statuses.
How many people do you have in this meeting every morning at 8:00?
So we break it down into two groups. We have our production side. So we'll have the 5 of us that are paralegals, case managers, and lawyers doing a daily huddle. And then the other folks, the intake and receptionist and all of them, they do their own morning daily huddle. And then the stand-ups, I do 2 a day. I've got a case manager and I've got a paralegal. So I do my one with my case manager right after the daily huddle. Usually takes 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. And then I go on Zoom, and we've got a remote worker that we use through Regents who's a paralegal. And I jump on Zoom with him and I do a stand-up with him on where we are with the litigation cases.
I like that. So everybody kind of knows what to expect, and everybody knows what, it keeps everybody, like you said, aligned. It keeps everybody, hopefully keeps stuff from falling through the cracks, I would think would be the big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I put file notes in as I'm, as we talk about a case, I'll put file notes in that says, case manager is going to be responsible for doing this week on this case. Lawyer is going to be responsible for doing this other thing this week on this case. Yeah.
Well, what I found is I know people start saying meetings. I hate meetings. And I do too, if you don't have an agenda or you don't have some kind of guidelines. If, like you said, if you just sit down and say, let's talk about this, it can go down rabbit holes and be very unproductive and kind of be boring. I don't know. I like the way you're doing this because it's you know what you're going to be talking about. You get right to the meat of the subject, and it sounds like they don't last forever. I like that. I think that's very productive. You guys do some other meetings too, don't you? Don't y'all do quarterly planning meetings too, right?
Yep, we do quarterly planning meetings to see where we were from, at the end of the last quarter, did we meet our goals for the last quarter, and then to plan out what we're doing for the next quarter. And then we do weekly staff meetings where we bring in a lunch on Wednesdays and just talk about communications in the office. And if there are going to be any changes, what we're going to do with those. We get suggestions from the staff on things we should change and do different as well.
Right. I don't know. I used to hear this all the time, and I think what you're doing is going to help eliminate that. But I would hear staff say, well, we're just getting so big, and, I just don't feel like, everybody's communicating. I don't feel like there's enough communication. I don't know what, where as you grow, you get big enough to where your left hand don't know what the right hand's doing. And I think you're still small enough. It's not as bad, but when you get to like 40, 50, 60 people, it really becomes a headache. Everybody feels like they're left out of the loop or whatever. So I applaud you for doing these Wednesday meetings. And I guess you just bring in lunch and just sit down. Yeah, I like that. So meetings can be terrible. Meetings can be great. I hope that's what our listeners are getting from this. If done properly, they can be great things. If done poorly, they can be terrible things. I mean, I used to hate meetings. I've read some books about meetings, and the key is having a set agenda and get the agenda out to everybody, so they know what we're going to be talking about, and have somebody facilitate it that can keep it moving and not let people go down rabbit holes. Like you said, take it outside the meeting, at another time, because you don't want to waste everybody's time talking about something between two people that has nothing to do with what they're doing. It's, then they're saying they're getting antsy rather, and they're wanting to move forward because they got work to do. So for that, I applaud you, for sure. So we just went to the summit. I saw you at the summit last week, and thank you. For those that don't know, Eric was instrumental in getting one of our keynote speakers, Bert Thornton, and he was a big hit.
Yeah. You're welcome.
He talking about mentoring, and everybody needs, somebody to bounce stuff off of, and I think he's right. I think even if the person that you got as your mentor, you might think you're smarter than they are. I think sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. I have that problem sometimes. I'm so involved in it. I'm so into it that I can't see it because I'm so wrapped up inside of it. Sometimes you can't see what's obviously in front of you, where somebody out from the outside can look at it and say, hey, this is easy. But then you just can't see it because you're too close to it, I guess.
That's exactly right.
I know you have coaches. I mean, I know you're in the mastermind. I know you got a business coach. Let's talk about that. How does that help you?
Well, look, exactly like you said, it gives me a perspective from outside of my business that when I'm working inside my business, I only know my perspective from inside it. And to get a third party perspective and to bounce an idea off somebody who maybe is even in a different industry, right? I've got a business mentor who's in a completely different industry, but we are in the business of law. And so they're, very common themes. I think a lot of times law school tries to train all of us to think that we're a different type of business, and we're not. I mean, we are a profession, but we're no different than a lot of businesses and how we should be run. So, if I go and I reach out to one of my coaches or mentors and say, look, I'm having this problem and I don't really know where I should go with it. A lot of times I can say, well, it's pretty easy. What I did in my business was I did this thing, right? If we're scaling up, I put together an org chart for the future of where I want to be. So I think it's very helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do formal coaching anymore, but if you're in the mastermind, which, if you got a problem, you can always text me. And sometimes, I get on the phone with somebody 15 minutes and we'll have something figured out. And it's just because I'm older than dirt and been doing this for so many years, and it helps, dealt with so many other law firms. There's not much I hadn't seen. And I don't know, you can't take away experience, right? But it's easier to learn something somebody's already been there and done that. It's like, I read this, I can't remember where I read it, but it's talking about if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you want the Sherpa that's been up there before, done it, taken other people, got them up to the top, got back down alive. I think it's the same thing with coaches. You want people that've been there and had experiences that maybe you have not had. And can also see the things you can't see because you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, I like that.
Well, and you got to be coachable, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you might be smarter than your coach or your mentor, but you've got to be humble enough to be able to listen to their advice and take somebody else's perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
and you probably aren't smarter than your coach or your mentor, by the way. If you're thinking that, then you probably need to rethink some things, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, what did it say? If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So you went to the summit last week. I'm just interested. We're getting ready to finish up. It's going to be a short podcast today, but I think I think it's more quality than quantity today. But I wanted to know what was like your 2 or 3 things that you really got blown away with from the summit last week that you said, man, this is really good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm still real interested in what I can do to implement AI in my practice. So I thought Justin Lovely's presentation was great. I also really liked the idea of, pull up my notes real quick because I have them up actually. Ken, I actually thought, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke up yours, I thought your talk was very inspirational, talking about having a growth mindset, breaking through, your topic was breaking through barriers for exponential growth. And I thought it was really good on how to have the right mindset into growing a law firm. And then of course I thought Mickey Love's presentation, how to double your income in 3 years. I thought that was really good about the pipeline analysis, how, what percentage of your cases should be A cases, knowing your numbers and all of those things. So I thought those were probably the best topics.
All right, my friend. Anything else? Anything you would like to, anything new out there that's going on, or anything that you think our listeners or viewers don't know about in the PI world?
Man, nothing really. I mean, I feel like, our firm changed a lot when we started developing these daily themes. It broke our caseload into manageable pieces so that our staff can work and focus on, primarily just a certain group of cases each day. Now you're going to get calls that are going to come in and maybe get you derailed, but you can always go back to, hey, today's Monday and I'm working on negotiations, right? Or today's Thursday and I'm doing follow-ups. And so it's a good way to kind of refocus as the day goes on and things kind of pull you different directions, and to make sure that the staff and the lawyers are aligned on what they're working on.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, thank you. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success. Let me turn off.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.